The sun had not fully risen when the ranch went quiet in a strange way. The wind stopped. The birds stopped. Even the old wooden fence seemed to hold its breath. From the house on the hill, the man noticed it at once. He was used to silence, but this silence felt wrong. He stood near the window, coffee untouched, eyes scanning the long dirt road that led to the gate. The ranch owner lived alone. Neighbors were miles away. He liked it that way. Quiet land, open sky, and no one telling him how to live. His past was behind him, or so people thought. To the world, he was just another ranch owner. But the past never really leaves a man like him. A cloud of dust appeared on the road. A dark SUV slowed near the gate. No markings. No plates on the front. The engine stayed running. Two men stepped out. They wore dark uniforms and caps. On their chests were badges that looked official, but not quite right. They walked with forced confidence, like men playing a role they did not fully understand. The knock came hard and fast. Not polite. Not patient. The man did not rush to the door. He moved calmly, like time meant nothing to him. From the side window, he studied them. One was tall and thin, eyes moving too much. The other was heavier, shoulders tight, hand resting near his belt. Both looked tense. Both looked nervous. Another knock. Louder this time. Open up. HOA enforcement, one of them shouted. The man raised an eyebrow. HOA? Out here? There was no active HOA on this land. It had been dissolved years ago. He knew that for a fact. He also knew something else. Real officers never knock like that. He opened the door slowly, keeping the chain on. Yes? He asked, voice calm, almost bored. We're HOA police, the taller man said. You're in violation of several community codes. We need to enter the property now. The words sounded practiced. Too practiced. HOA police? The man repeated. Didn't know HOA had cops. The heavier man stepped forward. Sir, don't make this difficult. We have the authority. The ranch owner looked at the badge. It was cheap. Plastic. The logo was outdated. The radio on the man's shoulder was off. No blinking light. No sound. Small details. But small details matter. What violation? The ranch owner asked. The men exchanged a quick glance. Illegal structures. Fire hazards. Noise complaints. The tall one said quickly. There's no noise out here. The ranch owner replied. And you didn't answer my question. The heavier man's jaw tightened. His hand moved slightly closer to his belt. That movement changed everything. Inside the man's head, a switch flipped. Training woke up. Years of discipline, control, and patience returned in a single breath. He stayed relaxed, but his senses sharpened. Heart steady. Mind clear. Let me get my paperwork, the ranch owner said. Stay right there. He closed the door gently. Inside, the house was quiet again, but now the silence felt sharp. He walked to the back room and looked at the security monitor. Every camera was on. The gate. The road. The porch. The barn. The men were clearly visible. Fake uniforms. Fake confidence. Real danger. Outside, the tall man tried the door handle. Locked. Sir, he shouted. Open the door now. The ranch owner did not respond. Instead, he picked up his phone and typed one short message. Then he waited. On the screen, the heavier man leaned toward his partner and whispered something. The tall man shook his head. Both looked uneasy now. This was not going the way they planned. The heavier man stepped back and scanned the land. Wide fields. Tall grass. Too much open space. He did not see the cameras. He did not see the locked gates quietly closing at the far end of the ranch. And he had no idea that the calm man inside the house was no ordinary ranch owner. This was not a raid. This was a mistake. Inside the house, the man stood still for a moment and listened. He could hear their boots on the porch, slow and uneven. One man paced. The other stopped near the door. Panic was starting to leak through their confidence. He had seen it before, many years ago, in places far from this quiet ranch. He moved with care, not rushing, not hesitating. He walked past family photos, past the simple furniture, and into the small office at the back of the house. On the wall hung no medals, no flags, nothing that spoke of his past. He preferred it that way. The past stayed quiet when you did not invite it out. He checked the security feed again. The tall man was talking fast now, waving his hands. The heavier man kept looking around, eyes sharp, shoulders tense. They were expecting resistance, but not silence. Silence makes people imagine things. The man took a deep breath and opened a drawer. Inside were old documents, folded and neat. Land records. Legal papers. Proof of ownership. No HOA authority here. Not anymore. He slid them into a folder, not because he needed them now, but because routine kept his mind calm. Another loud knock hit the door, followed by a kick. Last warning, someone shouted. Open up. The man smiled slightly. Real officers never give last warnings like that. He walked back to the front door and spoke through it, his voice steady. You still haven't told me your names. There was a pause. Officer Grant, the tall one said. Too fast. Officer Lewis, the heavier one added, a second late. The man glanced at the screen. Their lips did not match the names. Another mistake. What department? He asked. HOA Enforcement Division, Grant replied. That's not a department, the man said calmly. Silence again. Then anger. We're coming in, Lewis said. The sound of metal scraping metal followed. They were trying to force the chain. That was enough. The man stepped back, reached behind a nearby cabinet, and pressed a small button hidden near the wall. Outside, far down the dirt road, the ranch gate began to slide shut with a slow, heavy sound. Another gate followed. Then another. The land was closing, like a quiet trap. On the screen, Lewis froze and turned toward the road. What the hell was that? Grant's face went pale. Probably automatic gates. Lewis swallowed. Why now? The man opened the door just enough for the chain to hold. You should leave, he said. Right now. Grant tried to laugh, but it came out wrong. You don't scare us. I'm not trying to, the man replied. I'm giving you a chance. Lewis looked past the man, trying to see inside the house. His eyes searched corners, shadows, angles. He was thinking now. Thinking too late. You alone in there? Lewis asked. The man did not answer. Instead, he asked, Who sent you? Grant's mouth opened, then closed. Lewis stepped back. This isn't worth it, he muttered. Grant shook his head. We're already here. They argued in low voices, forgetting the man could hear every word through the open door. Forgetting that control had already slipped away from them. The man closed the door gently and locked it. Inside, he leaned against the wall and listened to his breathing. Slow. Even. He felt no fear, only focus. Outside, the ranch dogs began to bark, deep and loud, moving closer. Not aggressive, but alert. Another detail the intruders had not planned for. On the screen, Grant checked his phone. No signal. Lewis cursed under his breath. The ranch felt smaller now. The open land no longer looked empty. It looked watched. And for the first time since they arrived, both men understood something was very wrong. They had come to raid a ranch. They had walked into a test. And the man inside was already several steps ahead. The dogs' barking echoed across the ranch, low and steady, not wild, not afraid. It was the sound of warning. Inside the house, the man watched the camera feeds without blinking. Every movement outside told a story. Grant paced faster now, rubbing his hands together. Lewis stayed near the porch steps, body stiff, eyes locked on the windows. They were losing control. The man moved to the kitchen and poured the cold coffee down the sink. He did not need it. His mind was clear. His body felt light, ready. He checked his phone once more. No reply yet, but that was fine. Timing mattered more than speed. Outside, Grant raised his voice. Sir, you're obstructing an official inspection. Lewis shot him an angry look. Lower your voice. Grant ignored him and walked toward the side of the house. The cameras followed him as he passed the windows, peering inside, trying to find movement. He did not know how exposed he was. He did not know every step was being recorded. Lewis stayed back and reached under his jacket. The man noticed that instantly. He adjusted his position in the hallway, placing himself where he could move in any direction. His steps were silent against the floor. Years of training guided his posture, his breathing, his balance. He was not hunting them. He was managing the situation. Grant reached the corner of the house and stopped at the barn side door. He grabbed the handle and pulled. Locked. Hey, Grant shouted. There's more buildings back here. Lewis joined him, whispering sharply. Stop touching things. Grant shook him off. This place has equipment. We take something, we leave. Lewis hesitated. That was the first sign of doubt turning into fear. The man pressed another button inside the house. A soft alarm tone activated near the barn, barely audible, but sharp enough to confuse. On the screen, both men froze. What's that? Grant asked. Lewis scanned the land. I don't know. Motion sensor maybe. Grant laughed, but it cracked in the middle. You said this guy was alone. Lewis did not answer. The dogs moved closer, shapes in the tall grass, eyes reflecting light. Not attacking. Watching. Grant stepped back. I don't like this. Lewis reached into his jacket and pulled out a handgun. He did not raise it, but he did not hide it either. That single action confirmed everything. Inside, the man's jaw tightened. He did not panic. He did not rush. He simply adjusted his plan. He picked up his phone and sent another short message, this time adding a location pin. Outside, Grant stared at the gun. What are you doing? Lewis whispered, insurance. The barn alarm stopped suddenly. Silence returned, thicker than before. The man spoke through the outdoor speaker, his voice calm, firm, and clear. Put it away. Both men spun around, searching for the sound. You don't want to do this, the voice continued. You're already in enough trouble. Grant's breathing sped up. Who are you talking to? Lewis raised the gun slightly. Show yourself. I don't need to, the man replied. You made enough mistakes already. Grant backed away toward the porch. Lewis, let's go. Now. Lewis hesitated, eyes darting between the house, the dogs, the gates. The exits were closed. The land felt smaller with every second. In the distance, faint but real, a siren began to grow. Lewis heard it first. His face drained of color. Grant heard it next. That's not us, he whispered. The man turned off the speaker and watched as panic finally took hold. The test was reaching its final stage, and they were failing it badly. The siren grew louder, rolling across the open land like distant thunder. Grant froze near the porch, his hands shaking. Lewis lowered the gun just a little, his eyes fixed on the road beyond the gate. Both men now understood the truth. This was not an empty ranch. This was not an easy target. Inside the house, the man stood near the window, posture relaxed, face calm. He did not rush to confront them. Pressure was already doing the work for him. He had learned long ago that fear makes people careless, and careless people reveal everything. Grant broke first. This is bad, he whispered. We're done. We leave. Lewis swallowed hard. The gates are closed. Grant turned toward the house and raised his voice. Sir, let's talk. No one needs to get hurt. The man stepped onto the porch, hands visible, voice steady. Talking was always an option. You chose threats instead. Lewis stiffened when he saw him clearly for the first time. The man did not look angry. He did not look scared. He looked focused, balanced, like someone who knew exactly where every step could lead. You lied about who you are, the man continued. You lied about your authority, and you brought a weapon onto my land. Grant shook his head. We didn't hurt anyone. Not yet, the man replied. That matters. Lewis raised his chin. You don't know what you're dealing with. The man smiled, just slightly. I know enough. He took one step forward. Both men flinched. Put the gun on the ground, the man said. Slowly. Lewis hesitated, eyes darting to Grant. The siren was closer now. Real. No doubt about it. Grant nodded urgently. Do it. Lewis crouched and placed the gun on the dirt. The sound it made felt louder than it was. The man watched every movement, every breath. When Lewis stood again, his shoulders sagged, like a weight had dropped from his body. Sit down, the man said. They obeyed. The dogs emerged from the grass and stopped several feet away, calm but alert. Their presence sealed the moment. Grant stared at them, then back at the man. Who are you? He asked quietly. Someone who checks details, the man replied. The sirens reached the gate. Red and blue lights flashed against the metal fence. The ranch felt suddenly bright, exposed. Tires crunched on gravel as patrol cars stopped outside. The man raised a hand and pressed another button. The main gate slid open. Two deputies stepped out, weapons ready but lowered when they saw the scene. One looked at the man and nodded. Recognition passed between them, brief and respectful. Morning, the deputy said. You the caller? Yes, the man replied. These two claimed to be HOA enforcement. They tried to force entry. The deputy glanced at Grant and Lewis, then at the fake badges on the ground. You boys want to explain this? Grant dropped his head. Lewis said nothing. The second deputy cuffed them without resistance. As they were pulled to their feet, Grant looked back at the man. You could have heard us, he said. The man met his eyes. I didn't need to. As the patrol cars drove away, the ranch slowly returned to silence. The dogs wandered back into the grass. The man stood alone on the porch, watching the dust settle. Another quiet morning. Another reminder that some mistakes follow people longer than they expect. The patrol cars disappeared down the dirt road, leaving the ranch quiet again. Dust hung in the air for a long moment before settling back onto the land. The man remained on the porch, hands resting at his sides, listening as the sound of engines faded into nothing. Only then did he allow himself to breathe deeply. Inside the house, the silence felt different now. Safer. He walked back in and closed the door, locking it out of habit, not fear. The security monitors still showed empty paths and closed gates. No movement. No threats. Just land, sky, and time moving forward. An hour later, a black pickup truck rolled through the gate. The county sheriff stepped out, hat low, face serious. He had known the man for years, though not many people did. Some things were better left unspoken. Hell of a morning, the sheriff said as he walked up. The man nodded. Could have been worse. They sat at the kitchen table, coffee steaming between them. The sheriff laid out photos, printed fast from a patrol car printer. Fake badges. Fake papers. Stolen radios. The story unfolded piece by piece. They've been hitting isolated properties, the sheriff said. Pretending to be HOA or code enforcement. Intimidation. Theft. Sometimes worse. The man listened, eyes steady. They chose the wrong place. The sheriff looked at him carefully. You handled it clean. I didn't want it to go any other way, the man replied. The sheriff nodded slowly. Still got it, don't you? The man did not answer. He simply stared into his cup. Later that day, word spread through the surrounding landowners. Phones rang. Messages came in. Some were thankful. Some were scared. Many admitted they would have opened the door without question. The man drove his truck along the fence line, checking locks and cameras. Everything was in place. Everything worked. He had built the ranch not just as a home, but as a system. Quiet. Strong. Prepared. At sunset, he stopped near the gate and looked out over the land. The fields glowed gold under the fading light. Peaceful again. Almost too peaceful. That night, he sat alone on the porch, listening to crickets and distant wind. His phone buzzed once. A short message from the sheriff. They're talking. You weren't the first target. You helped stop them. The man set the phone down and leaned back in his chair. Helping had never been his goal. Control had. Control of a situation meant control of its ending. The stars came out slowly, one by one. Somewhere far away, life continued as normal. People locked doors. People trusted uniforms. People believed badges without looking twice. He hoped they would learn. Because not everyone who knocks tells the truth. And not every quiet man is unprepared. The ranch settled into the night. Unchanged on the surface, but stronger beneath. The man closed his eyes, knowing this chapter was almost over. Almost. Morning returned to the ranch slowly, like it always did. Light spilled over the hills, touching the fence lines and open fields. The land looked calm, unchanged by the events of the day before. That was how the man preferred it. Trouble could come and go, but the ranch stayed steady. He woke early and stepped outside with a cup of coffee. The air was cool and clean. No sirens. No strangers. Just the sound of wind moving through grass. He walked the perimeter once more, checking gates, locks, and cameras. Everything was secure. Everything worked as intended. Later that morning, the sheriff returned, this time alone. He leaned against the truck and watched the land for a moment before speaking. Those two weren't small time, he said. They were part of a larger group. Fake uniforms, fake authority, real crimes. The man nodded. People trust symbols. Badges. Titles. That trust gets abused, the sheriff replied. You helped us close a big gap. The man shrugged. I just didn't open the door. They shared a quiet moment, the kind built on understanding rather than words. The sheriff tipped his hat and drove away, leaving the ranch to its owner once more. By afternoon, the story had spread further. Online posts. Local news mentions. A warning shared across rural communities. Fake HOA enforcement. Verify before you comply. Stay calm. Call authorities. The man watched it all from a distance. He did not give interviews. He did not explain his past. He did not need recognition. What mattered was the lesson. That evening, he sat on the porch again. The same chair, the same view. The dogs rested nearby, relaxed and quiet. The land felt safe, not because danger could never return, but because it had been faced properly. He thought about how close things could have gone wrong. A different response. A rushed decision. A moment of fear. Any of those could have changed the outcome. But fear had not led the way. Patience had. Training had. And awareness. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky deep orange and purple. The man took a slow breath and let it out. His life now was simple. Ranch work, long days, quiet nights. But the skills he carried never faded. They waited, silent, ready. People often believed strength meant loud voices or fast actions. He knew better. Real strength stayed calm. It watched. It chose the right moment. Somewhere far away, two men sat in holding cells, their plan broken by one mistake. They had assumed isolation meant weakness. They had assumed silence meant compliance. They were wrong. The man finished his coffee and stood up. Tomorrow would be another quiet day. Fences to check. Animals to feed. Life to continue. But if another knock came, loud and demanding, he would be ready again. Not because he wanted conflict, but because peace is protected, not given. The ranch settled into darkness as stars filled the sky. The man went inside, locked the door, and turned off the lights. Calm returned fully, deep and complete. Some stories end with noise and chaos. This one ended with control. And that made all the difference.